Welcome and hello. This is the UC Berkeley Statistics PhD information session, and we're happy to have you all join us today. We have some slides. We want to do some introductions, and we'll do an overview, quick overview of the department admissions and our PhD program. And we want to leave plenty of time for questions and answers. So we'll go ahead and get started now. I am Lashana Polaris. I am the PhD program coordinator for the department, and I work closely with our faculty chairs, Sam and Vadim. But I see everything, I manage everything from admissions to graduation. Sam, you want to go ahead and quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Sam Pimentel. I'm the PhD program chair. So once a student sort of accepts our offer of admission and joins the program, then I'm help oversee sort of how the students are doing in the program, making progress, and uh, helping people find advisors and sort of make progress through the program to graduate.
Vadim.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vadim Gorin. So I'm chairing the PhD admissions committee. So I'm in charge of overseeing all the process from the time you submit your applications and up to, visit day and, when you accept your applications.
All right, for the overview of our department, the statistics department here was founded in 1955. We currently have over 30 faculty, around 60 grad students, or PhD students, and 70 master's students. And our undergrad major is growing. We currently have around a little over 400, I believe. PhD program is consistently ranked as one of the two premier graduate programs in statistics nationally. We are a founding department in Berkeley's newest college, and that's the College of Computing, Data Science, and Society. Our research interests are wide-ranging, with many faculty holding joint appointments in other departments, such as EECS, political science, biology, and the list keeps going. And you'll see the prominent areas of research interest included below, which can also be found on our website. On the right here, you'll see our current home, which is Evans Hall. We're going to be moving to our new home, which is still under construction, but we'll be moving to the new Gateway building next summer, 2026. All right, Vadim, I'll pass it on to you for admissions.
Hello, everybody again. So our admissions process for this year will start December 1st. So you can already submit your applications. So deadline will be in December. At that point, the committee will start reviewing the applications. It will take us some time, so don't expect to hear from us, immediately in December, but by mid to late February, we will contact all the applicants with the outcome. So the outcomes can be, you can be accepted to the program, or you can be waitlisted in the program, or you can be, rejected. Unfortunately, we can't accept everybody. A little bit about application process and requirements and the documents. So, you can find all the information by scanning this QR code or going to our website. But if, in brief, so these are the 10 components which we require with your, application. So there is a questionnaire which you should fill in, which is a graduate application. You should pay your fee. You should submit transcripts from your university. You should submit letters of recommendation. You should submit 2 statements. One of them is called statement of purpose, another one called personal statement. You should submit CV. If English is not your native language, then you should also submit TOEFL or IELTS scores so that we can judge, how well is your language proficiency. And then we also ask you to submit a list of math and statistics courses, some descriptions of them, and then some worksheet to show how GPA is being computed. So one thing that we do not require, that's your GRE scores. So optionally, you can still submit your subject score. Say you took a GRE in math and you want to submit it, you can still do it. But in practice, you shouldn't expect that the role of this GRE will be significant, only if you have very non-standard applications where we can't really judge maybe your math proficiency from your university classes, then we might use it. But in general, the role is kind of minimal. So one thing, other things that I want to describe in a little bit more detail, there are these two personal statements. One is called statement of purpose, and one is called personal statement. So the difference is that typically, they are both some kind of a short essays, like 1 to 2 or 3 pages. So statement of purpose typically is more research oriented. So maybe you describe, what kind of interests, what you want to pursue in your, PhD studies. Why are you pursuing these things? What kind of classes you took, maybe which make you specially fit for these research goals. Personal statement, you can combine there your research background with some more personal things. So maybe whatever you want to say about your personal history or some things which didn't really fit into other parts of your application. So we try to balance lots of different criteria in our admissions. And so there are some things which you cannot really read from CV, you can't really understand from just a list of classes that you take. And those things, you can describe in your personal statement, and then we will take them into account, when making our decisions. Other from that, so we're quite flexible. I think that eventually letters of recommendation play a very important role. So be careful when you choose your recommenders. You want these letters to be meaningful, to contain enough information for us to make decisions. Transcripts will contain for us lots of data about what kind of classes you were taking, but sometimes, especially with foreign applicants, we can't really understand fully, what is the meaning, this class, was it a high-level class or low-level class? And that's exactly where, descriptive list of classes help us a lot. So that's where you can explain whether that was, what was the level of this class and how do we interpret, the score of this class. So I think these are the main things, and you're always very welcome to reach out with questions if some requirements are unclear.
Thanks, Vadim. Now on to you, Sam.
Great. Thanks so much, Lashana and Vadim. So yeah, I get to talk about what happens when you get here to join the program. The first year is a time when you'll be very busy taking a lot of classes. In particular, we have 6 classes. There are 3 different 2-course sequences. Each of these, the top class here is typically offered in the fall, and the bottom class is offered in the spring. And so it's kind of one continuous sort of journey through a particular area of study. Right. So one of these kind of tracks is in probability. So that's kind of a much deeper, more rigorous extension of the probability class that you may have the chance to take as an undergrad. Another one is about theoretical statistics, and again, that's sort of an extension of the mathematical statistics class you might take if you're a statistics major. Lots more details here on the slide and on our website about kind of what specific topics are covered here. The third track is an applied statistics track, and that's more about sort of understanding the full kind of pipeline for working with data and taking that data in its very raw form and processing it and formulating hypotheses and models, and then turning that into some sort of useful tool for decision making or for answering your original research question. And that class, the applied statistics sequence in particular, it involves a lot of case studies and a lot of sort of extended projects where you kind of get a deep dive into applied problems. All of these courses are a lot of work, and so we typically recommend that you just take 2 of them during the first year. And that's all that we require, essentially, is that you take 4 of these courses during the first year. Sometimes students will want to tack on an extra course, but often it ends up being that halfway through the semester you realize, okay, I really got to focus on these. But they're very comprehensive classes, and they give you a really good grounding in these areas. So really common sort of choices would be to take, if you're more interested in theory stuff, to take probability and theoretical statistics. And another really common choice would be to take the theory and the applied side if you're someone who is interested more in the methods or applied side of statistics. I guess, oh, you know what? I misspoke about the probability thing. So 205 A and B are the courses I was talking about, but we also have this other class, 204, which is a great option if you're someone who doesn't necessarily want to do research in probability, but you're interested in getting a really rigorous training in probability. And so then you can take that one, as an alternative to the 205A, 205B series. And you can do that either in your first year. And you're also welcome to take any of these classes in your second year if you didn't get a chance to take them the first time around. Beyond the first year, though, there's a big change, which is you're not taking nearly as many classes. In particular, 4 classes is over half of what you're required to take for the entire program. Students are typically here for at least 4 to 5 years. And after this first year, you're only required to take 3 additional graduate courses, and in fact, only one more from our department. Um, and students will often mix in classes from electrical engineering and computer science, or from in optimization from the engineering or math. So there's all kinds of interesting ways you can complement the classes here, typically depending on what you want to do research in and what tools are most useful there. And so the vision is that after this first year, really your time is very free and you have a lot of flexibility about what things are going to help you advance and progress in research. All right, maybe we can move to the next slide. Great. Yeah. So the other key thing that I think about a lot in my role in the as PhD program chair is mentoring. Because there's so much flexibility and there's so much that's up to you, it can sometimes feel, I think it's a lot of times it's really great because you can really focus, you don't have to jump through a lot of hoops, but sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming to figure out, okay, like what should I be doing next? And so we try and provide really comprehensive mentoring support. So there's always someone to talk to get those questions answered. So I guess first of all, it's not on the slide, but as the PhD program chair, and I also have an assistant chair who wasn't able to join us today, and Lashana, you can always talk to one of us. And so we're kind of a constant resource that's always here for everyone in the program. But we also want to make sure people have multiple contacts and someone who's kind of more personally able to spend a lot of time with them. And so when you enter the program, you're connected with a faculty mentor in the first year. And so this is someone who they may not often it's someone who's interested in similar research topics to you, but not necessarily. The main purpose of this person is to kind of advise the student about how to navigate that first year and how to go about talking to other faculty members and finding an advisor. And typically, when I have a first year mentor, yeah, I'll meet with that person, at least 3 times during the year. And anytime they have a question or something, they shoot me an email, and it's really, no big deal for me to help them and guide them through. And this has been, from my perspective, it's been very successful. And I think the faculty have been really supportive and willing to help out with this. So again, this is someone who's there to help you navigate the first year and kind of figure out what you want to do and find the right people to talk to in the department. Starting in the second year, you'll be reaching out to faculty members and connecting with them and looking for people who share your research interests. And typically by the end of the second year, you found someone with whom you're interested in working with long term in the program. And then that person will then sort of take over as your primary mentor. And most of that will involve research, which is sort of the main thing you're going to be doing in your PhD. It's not mentioned on the slide, but once you progress a little further, you typically form a dissertation committee or a qualifying exam committee, which is a group of, 3 or 4 faculty who are, you're not necessarily collaborating with all of them, but they're, close enough to the work you're doing that they can offer meaningful insight. And the chair of that committee is another person who ends up serving as a mentor for you and may, for instance, write you a letter of recommendation at the end of the time. So at any point in the program, there's always multiple faculty members who are there, really kind of attached to you, who you can seek out and can help you resolve any issues. I think Lashana is going to talk a little bit about the Graduate Student Association. I know that often there are at least informal mentoring relationships that arise with senior graduate students as well. And that's another really, really valuable source of mentoring and support that the students in our program benefit from. Great. So yeah, I guess I kind of skipped ahead and mentioned a couple of these things already. These are some other experiences you'll have in the program. One of the experiences that everybody does as part of our program, which is really important and a useful experience, is teaching. So you will serve as a graduate student instructor. Another universities they call this a TA, but at Berkeley we have our own longer acronyms for everything. So that's a GSI, and you would do that for a minimum of two semesters during your time. This is roughly 20 hours a week, and it would involve, working with a faculty member who's the lead instructor for the class to develop a course material and possibly do a little bit of grading, although we often hire undergrads to do grading in the bigger classes. And then also spend some time typically teaching lab sections or discussion sections with students. And so it really shows you a lot how teaching works and gives you a sense for whether this is something that you want to do as part of your career. We definitely have students who really enjoy the teaching and who do a lot more of it and, go on to very teaching focused roles and are very successful. But the minimum is two semesters. Another experience is the qualifying examination. And so this is after you've been working on research for a little while. And this is kind of the moment when you get a committee together and say, hey, here is what I've accomplished so far, and here is what I'm planning to do for the rest of my PhD. It's typically about an hour-long talk, and then there's some discussion. It's called a qualifying examination, which makes it sound really kind of scary and high stakes. In practice, this is more like just a moment when you get a lot of valuable feedback and when a chance for you to sort of solidify your vision of, okay, here's what I'm doing, and start thinking about your plan after you graduate. Um, and then another, in terms of presenting your research, there's also an annual chance to present research at our B-Stars conference. This is a conference we have that where basically a bunch of the faculty and the students from the department are there, but we also have a bunch of external industry folks who come in, who are kind of partners and support our work in the department in various ways. And so it's a great opportunity to network with people who, may be looking to hire PhD graduates, or maybe have interesting data or interesting problems to solve, and also to get practice presenting to people who may not have exactly the same training as you, which is really valuable for whatever you do after you graduate. And then, of course, before you graduate, you'll write a doctoral thesis, right? And this is usually a collection of several smaller research projects tied together in some way you create and will be sort of signed off on by your committee. And that's kind of the big achievement of your PhD, and something that other people can usually. I think these are posted online somewhere, so people can see your thesis, and you'll always have that as something you've written. Great. I think I'll finish there.
All right, thanks, Sam. Funding, PhD funding. Packages do vary by students, but all admitted students receive up to 5 years of financial support, and that's through a combination of GSI, grad student instructor positions, also known as TA positions, or teaching assistants, grad student researcher positions, also known as research assistantships. But also it could be a department award or a fellowship. The funding does consist of full payment of tuition and fees, which includes the campus student health insurance program fees, student services fees, campus fees, transit pass, which includes the free to ride the bus and take BART, and also non-resident supplemental tuition if applicable. And the appointments noted above, the GSI and GSR appointments do provide a salary, while department awards and fellowships will be given as a stipend. Of course, all funding is contingent on making satisfactory progress throughout the program. Community building, fostering a sense of community, strong sense of, excuse me, fostering a strong sense of community is important to part of succeeding in any program. The department offers several opportunities to help students connect, engage, and support one another. There is a doctoral seminar for first-year students that's offered every year, and Sam is overseeing that program and works with faculty and students. There are faculty talks, there's panels on how to find an advisor, preparing for your qualifying exam, and so on. And that's for the entire first year. There's a department weekly social hour where cookies and coffee and tea are provided and fruit. There's department seminars that's open to students, the entire department and campus community. Um, and then Sam mentioned B-STARS, the Berkeley Statistics Annual Research Symposium, and that's an annual thing in the fall semester. There's also various department events. We have a fall welcome reception to welcome everyone back and, give a warm welcome to all new students, faculty, staff. There's an annual holiday party. We do celebrate Grad Student Appreciation Week and try and feed our students well during that week and offer games and activities if we can fit them in. In addition, Sam mentioned, our Grad Student Association, SGSA. They organize a variety of events throughout the year. There's weekly wine downs, and that could be exploring local restaurants. They do board games. They went kayaking a couple of weeks ago. They do hiking. And then they also offer annual events such as the fall party, spring picnic, and there's a annual full foosball tournament. I'm sure I'm missing some events. As Sam mentioned, the SGSA, they're really involved as well. They do provide during the summer before students start their first year in the program, they connect you with a continuing student to serve as your, peer mentor. And they answer any questions about housing and grad student life in the program, etc. Anyway, these events provide great opportunities to build connections with your peers, faculty, and the broader department community. So that's all we have for the overview of our program, our department, admissions, and it's time for questions and answers. Again, here's the QR code. That'll lead you directly to our PhD admissions and program information page. If you have any questions about the application process, you can email that email listed there, grad_adm@stat.berkeley.edu. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and we'll start taking any questions. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat or unmute yourselves.
Hi. One question. Would applicants with coming from work, basically, essentially, with those who've like left school many years ago, have been working in the industry and want to apply back now, could they? Are they considered? And also, is there like for like recommendation letters, could they get them from current managers and peers in their work environment?
Maybe I can answer. So in previous years, we regularly had candidates who had industry experience, and actually, these candidates are very valuable for us because, we aim to diversify the types of students that we admit. So we don't want to only stick to, maybe most theoretical people. So actually having people who have some experience, working in some company, that's very valuable for us. Speaking about recommendation letters, I think it works the best if you have some mix. So it would be nice if there is somebody from kind of represents this industry in which you're working over recent years, but also we still want to make sure that you will be able to pass the classes that were happening during the first year. And that's where also having some additional recommendation letter from somebody from your university who can say something about your academic preparation, that's also valuable. So having a combination, I think that's an optimal thing to do.
Yeah, I just want to underline what Vadim said about students with this background being very valuable. Those students have often been some of the most successful in our program. I think having that sort of context for and understanding why you're doing the PhD is can be a great strength and yeah, so definitely those students are very welcome to apply.
Thank you.
Okay, in the chat, are research assistantships guaranteed for PhD students, or does it depend on the level of funding for individual faculty? Well, Lashana, you can correct me here, but generally, yeah, research assistantships have to be given through a faculty member. And so, you know, it's not something that would be handed out in general by the department to you. It's something you work out with your advisor. But I mean, the way funding works, like I have a grant right now from the NSF, and when I wrote that grant, I said, I requested a certain amount of money to be spent on graduate students, and that's what I essentially have to do with that money. And so, and we're all writing grants like that. That's a part of every grant. And so, faculty members do have this money that needs to be spent on graduate students, at least if they have grants, which most of us do. And so, in general, it does come through faculty members, but it's not something that's well, at the moment anyway, it's not something that's a very rare resource that's kind of where students are competing to get them. There's also opportunities to apply for outside fellowships, and the department does have some kind of running relationships with outside sponsors who sponsor like a year-long fellowship every year for a student in our department. And those are things that students can just apply to directly and receive. I should also say that, in some ways, maybe it's nicer to have a lot of RA type roles so that you can, have a little, spend a little less time teaching if all you really want to do is research. But GSA, TA appointments are always available. And so, I understand it's a time when there's a lot of worry about federal funding and support for things like RAs. We're in zero danger of not being able to support our graduate students. It's possible that graduate students may have to do a little more teaching if things really go south in terms of the federal funding perspective, but everyone will get paid, everyone will be fine. We have zero concerns about that because there will always be at least more teaching positions available, even if research doesn't. But at the moment, I'd say that most of our students are on research support most of the time. Is that fair to say, Lashana?
That is, yes.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me? So,
Yes, we can
I
hear
have two
you.
questions. One of the questions was centered on, okay, like one of the questions was centered on the statement of purpose. When you were trying to explain the difference between the statement of purpose and personal statement, so on your explanation of statement of purpose, you were laying emphasis on research and it has to do with academics. So I just wanted to know, would it be something like that someone has done in their undergraduate, or what the person is focusing on entering the program at Berkeley? So that is my question on statement of purpose. The second question is, are there any sort of need-based application fee waiver for international students? Thank you.
Let me first answer about the statement of purpose. So usually what we are seeing in these statements is that people have some combination of, discussing what they already achieved. So maybe they were involved in some, research experiences, or maybe, in their classes, they were doing something interesting, etc. And then some kind of indications about what kind of things they're interested to do in the future. And that's kind of, what we are looking for. We want to understand who you are and also what you want to do. Now, there is lots of flexibility. There is no prescribed format of that. So really, you can, depending on what kind of experiences you have, in your life, in your career, you can frame your, writing in whatever form you would like to have it.
All right, thank you.
And then I can answer the question about fee waivers for international students. The university doesn't offer fee waivers for international students, unfortunately, domestic students only. However, the department has gathered our faculty volunteered and donated funds to support fee waivers for international students. And you will find the link to that application in the actual graduate application. When you're filling out your application, if you go to the payment section, you'll find the link to the application, department's application for a fee waiver there. So be sure to complete that, and that will get reviewed shortly before the December 1st deadline. I hope we both answered your question.
Yes, perfectly well. Thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing a question in the chat. So if we had personal, health, family, and immigration challenges that affected our performance and GPA in certain periods, can we surmount that obstacle if we explain it in our personal history? So I think it essentially, personal history is designed to explain your personal circumstances. So it will be very appropriate, definitely, to say about these things there. And then we will definitely take this into account. So, we still want to understand that you are able to pass our classes. In that sense, we want to, if you had some bad period, we still want to have some indication that, eventually, you will be able to raise to the level that's necessary there. But definitely just if you had some bad period, in your career, this does not disqualify you from being admitted to our program. So, feel free to explain all the circumstances in your statements.
Naren, is it? Feel free to your question.
Oh, yeah. So firstly, thank you all for the presentation today. I wanted to ask a question about, I know it said in the presentation that you kind of pick your advisor by the end of your second year. So if you have, I know this can change a lot with graduate admissions, right? Like your idea of what you want to research prior to going into the program and then what you actually want to research by the time it comes to the end of your second year. But if you have some sort of like, I guess like a semblance of a research focus that you want to go into, would it be appropriate to talk about in your personal statement potential people you would see as advisors 2 years down the line, even though that's kind of a bit far down the future? Or would that be a little bit too preemptive? Would you be more interested in kind of having a research focus on why I want to be involved in research specifically rather than like a sub focus since it's a little early in the process?
Yeah, I mean, Vadim can speak to this from an admissions perspective as well. My sense is that uh, it's usually a good thing to sort of be thinking very specifically. Certainly from your perspective, as a prospective applicant, I would definitely recommend that you be thinking about this question and that you be identifying people who you think might be good potential advisors for you. Um, you know, uh, I don't necessarily recommend trying to contact all of the faculty who you might think of as a advisor. We get tons and tons of emails from people, across the country, and I'm not able to respond personally to all of those emails. Not uh, you know, uh, just because of the sort of the volume of these things. So you don't need to feel obligated to contact people in advance if you want to mention them in your application. But it's definitely fine to say, I'm interested in the work being done by these faculty members, and I would be interested in working with them. That's a fine thing to say. And it can be helpful to sort of clarify sort of what your vision is and how you fit in the department. And there's no sort of that is something we look at when we admit people, and sort of will often notify the faculty who they mentioned in their application to see if they can meet with them during visit day or things like that. There's no obligation though if you mention that in your application. If you change your mind when you get here, that's also fine. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Vadim.
I think that's how it is. So, quite often people, I think that even our application has some form there where you can list, the faculty who you think are the closest to you research-wise. And we take this into account, this information, especially when we want to kind of classify different applicants, what research area they are likely to belong to. Simultaneously, we take it with a grain of salt because we understand that often applicants just are not fully aware, what these or other faculty is actually doing. But I've seen many examples where already during their first year, students start pursuing research projects with faculty members. So there is very much happening all the time. So, if you already feel that there is something particular that you want to do, you should feel free to express that.
There's a question in the chat. Can those with pure mathematics educational background apply as well?
Well, absolutely. I can tell you from personal experience, I have PhD in mathematics actually, so there is no restrictions at all, and we are very welcome, mathematically mature people. Well, the only thing that in the end, that's the Department of Statistics, and our connection to mathematics is through either probability theory or through theoretical statistics. So, if you want to do algebraic geometry, then probably you're better off applying to math department. But if you'd want to do something related to, probability/statistics, then, mathematical background is only a plus, not a minus at all.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So yeah, pure math, but I'm a data scientist currently. So I think I made that move already.
There's also a question about, is extensive research experience or publication required to get admitted to the program? So there is no formal requirement at all. So I think we want applicants to have some idea what does it mean to pursue a research project, right? So, we want to have that you at least understand what you're applying for, right? And that's where, how you can demonstrate that usually by saying, okay, maybe I tried, this thing, or I tried that thing. But, typically we don't expect our students already to have some, solid publications. That's not a requirement. Of course, if you have some publication, that's a plus. But we've seen many very successful students in our program who didn't have any publications when they were admitted. So it's not a requirement.
I'll also mention if you have research experience outside of statistics, that can also be very relevant. I think it's often rare for students to have opportunities to do statistics research as undergrads, just because you often have to learn a lot of stuff before you can start that research. But if you have, like I did, I worked in a bio lab when I was an undergrad, and that experience, even though it wasn't really statistics work, it ended up being very useful in helping me understand how research works. And so you can write about that kind of thing too. I saw there was a hand raised. If someone has a question, feel free to speak up. Naran, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So this is kind of related again to earlier when you were talking about how like industry experience can be helpful in the PhD application process. I wanted to ask if like, so for my personal background, I had like an internship where I worked in a research and development team as part of industry. And I was wondering if that would be considered like if a presentation I gave on that topic at that company to non-technical people and technical people would also be considered kind of like a research presentation of sorts, even though it's not at like a conference per se or anything like that.
Yeah, that seems like that would definitely be relevant, something to write about. I mean, it's helpful. This is the kind of thing that's helpful, I think, in the statement of purpose, or the personal statement, wherever it fits better to sort of give the context for it and describe why it's related to your kind of vision for graduate school. But yeah, things like that are definitely, um, that sounds like a fine thing to mention for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one more question. I know you said that GRE is not required, but you would look if someone has a subject GRE, but it's not gonna negatively impact anyone if they don't have the subject, right?
That's correct. So if it's not there, then we will just look for the information from your transcript to see your maturity, in various classes.
For those who recently arrived, feel free to unmute yourselves, or if you have any questions about the program, admissions, you can add it in the chat.
Hi, I'm doing an exchange in Berkeley, and I was wondering whether I could connect offline, like with the professors to ask about the program or how's it like at the Berkeley PhD. Thank you.
We are recording this session, so we'll share it with those and post it most likely to our website. But you are free to come to the department. You can make an appointment with me if you'd like to meet with me first. And you'll find me, you can email me, lashana@berkeley.edu.
I have a really quick question, Francis here,
Hi, Francis.
about the implementation of the statistics PhD across different industries. What have the faculty seen, and how that degree could be integrated in different industries, specifically public health?
Oh, great. Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, Lashana probably knows a bit more than I do about like the full range of things that our graduates do. But yeah, we have people going into all kinds of different industries with statistics PhDs. Um, in terms of public health specifically, a lot of my research has to do with, uh, you know, working with electronic health records to solve sort of problems in medicine and public health. I'm working on a project right now with a bunch of doctors and epidemiologists at Kaiser Permanente, which is the big health system here in California. If you're not local, they and yeah, one of the things we're looking at is like impact of opioids that moms take during their pregnancy on the later sort of neurodevelopment of their children, which is it's kind of from this medical context, but it's kind of a public health question. One of my student I worked with recently, she was actually in the biostatistics program, but she ended up essentially working with me as a statistics PhD student would on very similar problems. She just went to be a biostatistician, also at Kaiser, working on big vaccine studies. And so, yeah, so there are definitely kind of a lot of opportunities in those kinds of roles. It is very common in big health systems for a need for PhD level statisticians and biostatisticians to support clinicians and epidemiologists who are writing big grants and running big studies, and they need statistical support. And so that's a very common kind of job description, to go into one of those places and be an assistant professor or a biostatistician and support those kinds of studies. I know we've also had students go recently to big biotech type companies like Genentech, which work on big trials about different kinds of drugs and cutting edge medical therapies that maybe sort of engaging with questions of health in kind of a different way. Lashana, do you have any other uh, you know things that you might want to mention here?
Um, I can't think off the top of my head of the different places where our recent grads have gone. But Sam mentioned we have lots of faculty have joint appointments. I've mentioned joint appointments earlier, and we have faculty who have joint appointments in biostatistics, um, as which is in the School of Public Health. Um,
Yeah, and the School of Public Health is a great thing to mention as well. Like if you're thinking about those 7 classes you take as part of your PhD, like you could take a couple of public health classes in order to sort of like shape your graduate education towards those directions you want to do. Another department we have joint appointments with is the new Department of Computational Precision Health, which is joint with UC San Francisco. And so we have some faculty who are affiliated with that. I'm actually affiliated with that as well. And that's a chance to meet clinicians and people over there who are doing kind of very on the ground health work as well.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And that makes sense, specifically about the precision health, because precision medicine is a big thing now. And then the parallels to public health. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lashana.
Sorry, one more question. Are there any PhD students who continue working as they're studying, or they're mostly only just stay students?
So our first year classes are really intensive, and so I definitely wouldn't necessarily recommend committing to be spending a big chunk of hours in another job. I'm not sure exactly what our requirements are around that. Lashana, do you want to elaborate on that?
our program is a full-time study program, but we don't necessarily keep track of what students are doing. I often hear of students holding internships or part-time jobs at companies, so it is possible. But as Sam mentioned, definitely the first 2, 3 years, it's very rare that I see our younger students trying to hold down a job and complete, those early on requirements of the program. So it's usually our more advanced students who are, working on their dissertations.
Thank you.
I will say it's very common for students to do like short-term internships, right? Especially over the summer, sometimes other times during the year as well. And that's kind of uh, something that faculty are used to people doing, and it's part of the program, and or it's a standard practice. And so there would definitely be opportunities to do that kind of thing. I know we've also had some students who were working for a company and then they sort of left to do the PhD, and then later they went back to the company as well. And sometimes that ends up being a nice thing for the company to get this much better trained person coming back. So I know that's something that's happened in the past too.
And I know a few students who are actually working for companies, and the company will pay their tuition as well as a nice salary. So they're not appointed on campus, but they do get funding through that company.
Hi, I have a problem that right now I'm the student in Berkeley in junior year. So if I want to apply for the statistic master, so applying the January 1 year semester program or the 5th year for Berkeley students.
The master's program information session took place earlier this week, but I think it's best that you reach out to David Apalato Jr., and you can find his information on our website. You could even email me,
Okay.
and I'll respond separately. But I would want to double check with our master's program coordinator first,
Okay,
since
thank
the
you.
5th year master's program is fairly new. This is only our 2nd year into it, so I would like to double check with him. I would assume the 5th year master's program, but again, let's double check with David.
Yeah, but actually, right now my major is X, not the static. Yeah, so I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, let's double check with David.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Sorry, one more. I'm so sorry. I asked so many questions.
No, it's great. Don't be sorry, please.
Lashana, we can like book an appointment with you if you have any like specific questions and bother you there.
Anytime. You'll find my information on the website.
Thank you.
All right, we have
Lashana, I have
Yes.
one question. Francis here again. Since I had joined late, you were talking about there was a word for it, but you were talking about like I guess people from other PhD programs interlinking with the statistics PhD program. You had a word for it when I had jumped on, but I jumped on late, so I was wondering if you could review that again really fast. What do you guys say? Associations, or what did y'all say?
Oh, the
sorry.
Statistics Grad Student Association?
Yes.
Okay.
Or
Was that it?
I think, but you're saying like people in other doctorate programs are working with this, like the public health, and then there was another one, but you guys had a word for it. Start with a C. I'm so sorry. But I guess they're working within both programs at a certain level. You know, like they're doing public health and statistics, but they're not getting both degrees, but I guess they're working within both specialties.
So I think what's happening in practice is that many of our faculty members have joint appointments between several departments. And so, we will be often starting to work somebody, you're a PhD student of statistics, but actually your supervisor, have this joint appointment, and then your supervisor connects you to the communities of these other departments. So I think in this way, most probably we'll still be getting PhD in statistics, but okay, this will be just a line in your diploma, while in practice, you can pursue research in very different directions, which will connect you to, these other, departments and, other communities represented there. So that's the most usual path. Some people just try to find even advisors in different departments, in addition to somebody from statistics. And in principle, that is possible, but you still need to have some connection to statistics department, right? So otherwise it's unlikely that you will be admitted here.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on what Vadim said, that a great place to sort of broaden your sort of mentoring and kind of the perspective on the work you're doing is in your dissertation committee. So you have your main advisor who's typically has to have some kind of affiliation with statistics, but on your dissertation committee you can bring in people from other departments, and it's very, very common for someone, if you're doing work in genomics or something, to have a member from molecular cell biology on that committee, or yeah, someone from computational precision health or biostatistics would be a really easy fit. I've been on dissertation committees down in biostatistics and also in computational precision health. I guess the other thing I'll mention is the classes, right? And I get tons of biostat and ec students and econ students in my classes, and I get to know them, and they get to know me, and I provide them feedback on their papers and their talks later on when they're doing things. And so there are tons and tons of opportunities to build those bridges. A lot of them are a little more informal. But Berkeley is a place where that kind of collaboration is really valued. And so I don't feel like, in general, there are a lot of barriers to really connecting with people across departments. Our students have been very successful in getting outside mentoring and kind of having an interdisciplinary experience here as part of their research.
Okay,
Francis,
thank you.
maybe the term was co-advisors.
It was
Students,
actually, Vadim said it was appointment.
appointment.
That was the word I was looking for. I was like, oh my Lord, I'm so embarrassed. Like,
That's okay.
but yes, thank you everyone for answering that question. Thank you, Vadim.
A few minutes left here. If anyone has any questions about admissions, PhD program.
I have two questions. Could I ask? The first one is like, would it be okay to reach out for professors before the application, like meet in person or email them? And the second question is, is it okay to get opportunities, like, is there any opportunities for feedback on the SOP or essays before the final application? Thank you.
I mean, you can definitely email faculty. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we receive many, many faculty emails from prospective students, and I personally am not always able to respond individually to all students. So I would just go in to that process aware that that may not be something that will have a high rate of success. Again, I'll underline it's not expected that you would necessarily have pre-existing relationships with faculty. And so, if you mentioned you're here at Berkeley, if you're taking a stat class, if I have a student in one of my classes who comes to me in office hours and has some questions about the PhD program, I'm always happy to answer those. So I think those kinds of more informal connections, you're certainly, I don't object to talking about the PhD program in those settings, but I may not be able to sort of, I can't always just arrange to meet with students, at large from, especially, who don't have a pre-existing connection to me or the department. The other question, yeah, I don't usually give feedback on statement of purpose and things like that, particularly when I'm on the admissions committee. It's a little weird to be doing that when I'm later going to review those. So just as a general rule, as a faculty member, I don't generally review those. I don't know if there are other resources available. Uh, I don't know, like if you have an undergraduate advisor or someone, that's a person who maybe might be better positioned, or one of your recommenders for your undergraduate, for your application. Maybe that person might be better positioned to do that. I don't know if others have thoughts about this.
I sometimes recommend, or if they know grad students who are in an actual PhD program, and if they're willing to go over that, like maybe your GSI or something, you might want to give that a try.
Sorry, one more question. All the elements of the application should come in together, or maybe like if recommendation letters take some time by the time they do it, would that be a problem? Or everything needs to be done before the deadline?
It is highly encouraged that you encourage your recommenders to get them in by the deadline. We do not look at applications until after the deadline, but once the deadline is passed, we have a short timeline to turn around and make decisions. So, your recommenders are going to submit their letters of recommendation. Whenever they do that, you can send reminders. We don't keep track of that we will review applications as is. If so, it would be best that you encourage your recommenders to get them in by the deadline.
Thank you.
So just one additional comment. So my understanding that the way the system is operated, so if some letter is late, it will still be attached to your application. But the problem that might happen is that, if we already looked through your application by that time, then, we will not be coming back to it, unless you do it kind of in some second stage, etc.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions, please visit our website and feel free to reach out, make an appointment with me. And thanks again. I hope you all have a great day.